Great, we are live. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening, or good whatever time you have of the day, wherever you happen to be in the world. My name is Rick Adams from practicalcsm.com and from the Success Hub. And this is the second of our brand new series of customer success in the digital era. And I'm really pleased to welcome our guest for today, which, of course, as you know, is Guy Nirpaz, CEO and founder to Tango.
Hi, Rick. Thanks for having me. Hello, everyone. Great to be with you today.
Let me, first of all, just give a quick introduction to Guy, because not everybody may know who he is, may not have met him before. So, as I mentioned, Guy's the CEO and founder of Tango. Prior to that, Guy was an executive vice president for R&D at a company called Gigaspaces Technologies, which is a California-based high-tech SaaS startup that helped customers to drive enterprise digital transformation. Now, I say that because, in other words, Guy, your heritage is exactly in and around the very topic of our conversation today, namely customer success in the digital era. And Guy, your background is technical. It includes a number of years in the role of senior software systems architect for IBM. You have first-hand experience, therefore, of both working in that MNC environment and in startup environments, which I think is very interesting. And I imagine that both experiences have helped made you who you are today. But before we turn to Guy, just a position to Tango itself, for those who may not be aware of it, a leading enterprise customer success platform that enables companies to align around their customers, driving increased loyalty and lifetime value. Tango's solution connects all customer information so companies can proactively and intelligently engage with their customers to drive adoption, retention, expansion, and referrals. And amongst its many customers, Tango provides services for multiple brand name companies, including Zoom and Monster, all of which use Tango as their everyday CS tool to engage and delight their customers. Is that as well as his CEO role, if that wasn't enough, Guy also co-wrote the best-selling book on customer success management called Farm Don't Hunt, published in 2016, I think, from memory, and which is generally considered to be one of a small handful of must-have books for every CS professional's personal library. And indeed, I have my own copy, and I would not hesitate to recommend it to others. So, Guy, once again, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Rick. Great to be here.
Perhaps we should start at the obvious place, which is the formation of Tango. If I can take you back to 2010. Now, as I mentioned, you were heading up R&D for Gigaspaces, as I understand it. And I would have thought you had plenty to occupy you in that role. And that's a company that has continued to grow and evolve as well. So what made you decide to jump ship and start a brand new company completely from scratch? Because that is a massive decision to make.
Yeah, thanks. So first, I just got a small correction. Gigaspaces is an Israeli company. So, everything that we're talking about happened in Israel. And I think of the background of that Gigaspaces, early stage, what used to be called grid computing, and then big data, and then machine learning, but kind of focused around providing infrastructure technology for companies to build, data intensive applications. And the business model was enterprise, and it was around the time where AWS was kicking off, and SaaS and all of that, and it was very clear that as we were thinking in Gigaspaces about what's going to happen, that the relationship between companies and their customers is going to change, right? Cloud and subscription or lifetime value and all of that. And as a result of that, the need to make sure that you build a product in a way that customers can get value very, very quickly, and then making sure that the value is being maintained and growing, and to ensure the retention and the expansion and so forth. It was clear that this is, just about to happen. Clearly I was, very much involved in this idea around 2009. And then in 2010, we actually kind of kicked off and started the company around very similar ideas that we've seen. So the way we thought about this is that cloud and recurring revenue it's a problem and a solution at the same time. So once you launch the product on the cloud with a recurring revenue business model, subscription or pay per use and so forth, it's on you as a vendor to actually make sure customers are getting value from your products and services.
Yeah, right.
But at the same time, you have this opportunity where you can actually see what your customers are doing, because you have access to, all the usage information, because your infrastructure that they're running And that was the genesis of the Tango. We're going to track usage. We're going to turn that into insights about customers that are going to be used by companies to make better customer decisions,
right.
To drive value. And, I remember like the first pitch decks, we called it customer success, and we got thrown by so many VCs because, what are you talking about? What is customer success? What is it all about? But
I'm sure.
Long story short, to fast forward that, last year we launched a freemium version of the Tango, and you mentioned the positioning. I think it was a little bit 3 years ago, positioning leading enterprise. Now we're doing we're doing all the range of companies. The thinking is we want to democratize access to customer success technologies to any company at any stage. If you're ready to customer success, we want you to consider the Tango for your use, because we think it's so critical these days to have the right tools and the right technology and the right methodology to properly implement customer success. So that's kind of the way we go to market today. And along the years, we've been able to work with amazing set of companies in the enterprise space, mid-market space. You mentioned some of them, but I would be remiss not to mention Google and SAP on the very upper end of that, and NTT, or some of the fastest growing companies like SentinelOne and so forth. So we've been able to see we've been able to see the market evolving, and we've been able to see a lot of companies in various stages. And I think right now, you're rightfully saying that the emphasis on digital customer success, that, if you go back to my original idea about the Tango, was the genesis of the Tango, digital customer success. We had to take a detour around the people-driven customer success, but the digital customer success was at the core of the vision, where you should and can use data to really intimately understand your customers, their needs, their motivation, and take the necessary actions, hopefully in a scalable fashion, to drive that. And I think everyone now, is facing this challenge where, even if it's just to meet the pace in which the market changes, it could be that it's, I would 100% say that digital model is more efficient and more scalable and so forth, but it also allows you to move so much faster these days. And a lot of businesses, I think the number one challenge that they have is getting on board super, super quickly, because the markets are moving at rates that we've never seen before. So, great topic. Thank you for inviting me to talk about this.
No, not at all. And thank you for that, explanation as to where the heritage has come from. And I think it's fascinating because you began that story with something that was very real for me, which was the rise of AWS, which was kind of like almost like the democratization of big data. Right, the ability for small companies to start doing the stuff that really even only enterprises could do in prior decades. Suddenly anyone can set up an online shop and start doing e-commerce. Suddenly anybody can take data from multiple points, analyze it, and start to provide intelligence as a third-party service to somebody else, and reach anybody throughout the world by doing so through cloud, and ultimately where we are now with hybrid cloud services, which I love. And I love that the whole movement of this ability to take multiple databases and to take the data from all of them and to concatenate it and to start get some sense from all of it. I get excited about these things, as you can probably tell. and so there you were in an organization that actually was sort of leading the edge in a lot of ways, with memory and things like that, as I understand what you were up to. And so it seems to me that what you saw in your R&D was that this was going to be something that was going to go way beyond enterprise type companies, and that everyone was going to have a piece of this. And if they did, then, as you said, alongside the doing of it, they're going to need the understanding of it and the ability to make sense of it. And that seems to me that what you're saying is that Tango's mission is to help companies to make sense of what is happening with their customers and to be able to make informed decisions because of that better intelligence. Is that right?
This is true, but I think it's the first step. I agree that kind of understanding customers, intimately is very, very important. But to your point, I think if we look at the movement and the things that you're passionate about is using that in order to innovate on customer experiences at global scale, right? I mean, if we just kind of, you can create a global scale business relatively very, very quickly at rates that we've never seen before.
Yeah.
And because all the infrastructure, right, setting up servers, building applications, building even sophisticated application has been commoditized, and the friction has become, almost non-existent. Yes, of course, you need, it's still not, still some work, but, not even comparable to what
it's going to cost some money, but nowhere near what it was going to be.
Exactly. So then the innovation becomes the company and the customer, the product,
the
experience. So we're in an innovation world, right? It's and customer success, in my opinion. I do customer success, customer experience, customer journey. I think it's innovation now, right? It's that kind of thinking big about new ideas to differentiate your business, right? I mean, 10 years ago, companies didn't have customer success. The one they did were leading the pack by making a statement that they are very much customer focused. Fast forward 2021, 90% of the companies have customer-centered initiative. They have customer success organizations. They have, customer experience. They talk journey and so forth. So how do you differentiate? Having customer success is must have, but it's insufficient in order to compete. So now the competition is, what do you do with that? What experiences can you actually deliver to your customers that are superior than your competitors? And this is where, it's not only that, this is where like the products and experience and success and they all mesh up together. Airbnb, is it a product? Is it an experience? Is it, what is it?
A movement?
It's an amazing experience. So Hilton, Airbnb, you can see the differences and so forth. This is why Walmart invests so much money in trying to build up the experience to match the Amazon experience and so forth. So technology, customer experience, customer centricity, and products are all meshed together into one customer journey that needs to be optimized. And to summarize again onto Tango, we see ourselves as a provider of technology, tools, and ideas to help companies innovate along those lines. And I'm as you can see, I'm super excited about this because I think it's being in an industry of innovation, industry of creativity is very exciting to me.
It is a lot of fun, isn't it? Yeah, I think you're right. So alongside the technological, let's call it the hard technological advances that we've seen over the last couple of decades, the AI and the big data and the cloud type sort of Internet of Things, a sensor in every device and so on. There's that side of it. But then, as you say, there's also a very human side of this, which is about innovation and creativity and agility. And I think also what you're saying, which I think is equally exciting, is the ability to place someone in a position that gives them those capabilities, because you're providing the data and the information to make better quality decisions than they would otherwise be able to make, right?
Yes, and the design tools as well. I think data and information is one thing, and then the design tool to design experiences, execute on those experiences, kind of run those experiences, measure those experiences, and make the necessary changes. So I think of the world is moving from build it, run it, and I'm done, right? Build a customer success organization, set up the processes, and I'm done.
Just build it first, then open it, right? No time for that now.
You really want to have, I think that the right approach should be like unlimited opportunity to design amazing experiences, like a clean canvas, right? I want to design the best-in-class experience. Have you heard about the story about the Airbnb 5-star rating, 6-star rating, 7-star rating, and so forth? Reid Hoffman, the founder of LinkedIn. There was an episode about Airbnb and the star system. And they kind of divided the hotel star system. So what's a 4-star experience, 5-star experience, 6-star experience, 7-star experience? And they kind of open up the mindset into, so how can we be even better than 5-star? Let's not limit ourselves with 5 stars. What is 6 stars and so forth? So I think
It's an interesting point, isn't it? Yeah. Yeah.
So I think if the customer success community, all the listeners to this episode, or others that are going to listen to this later, if we can think about what would be a better, I mean, yes, we're doing good work right now, but what could be better? How can we innovate? What we want to promote is this thinking. Right? There's no limit into the experience in which you can build to your customers, and all of the technology innovation that you mentioned. I think ultimately it's at the it is for the purpose of where the technology meets the human. Right? We are doing all that for this. Last mile technology meets the human because the humans are the buyers, they are the customers,
the ultimate value.
The employees.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah. Someone somewhere's got to get something, a benefit out of this as a net result, haven't they? So you mentioned something much earlier on, which I want to touch on in today's conversation quite a bit, because I'm very interested. In fact, I'm fascinated by the concept of change. Okay, as a concept, but also because I think my belief, we are going through unparalleled amounts of it right now. We did a poll for today, which you can see if you click on polls, you can see the result there actually, Guy. How much change is your CS team undergoing? So we've had nobody say things are static. Nobody has said not all that much. 30% have said enough, but not too much. And then 23% quite sufficient, thank you. 23% more than we're comfortable with, and 7% way too much, we cannot cope. And I think that's very, very interesting. And I would, and that does not surprise me. I doubt it surprises you. Obviously, it's completely non-scientific. It's just whoever happens to be here today. But I think it is still indicative of what's happening. But yet at the same time, the concept of change as being the one constant in life was actually, as we understand it, first said by Heraclitus, a Greek philosopher 2,500 years ago. So if the one thing that he was moaning about 2,500 years ago was the rate of change, I look back at my childhood in the 70s and early 80s. And I look back just to 30 years ago and think things were really much calmer then. There wasn't half the rate of change. So is this just because I've got old? Is Heraclitus right and there's always been this amount of change? Or are we living through unprecedented change? What's your opinion, Guy?
I think change is constant. Whether it's unprecedented or not unprecedented, that's for historians to decide, but I think,
okay, so you can only tell afterwards, maybe. Yeah.
No, but I think emotionally we all feel the change, right? You mentioned what happened in the 30 years. I was watching this. I don't know why, but I was watching this show on Netflix about loggers that their entire story about having tree farm in Canada and getting the logs into the mills and so forth.
Yes.
But what was very clear to me, this was the mechanical world that I lived in the 70s and 80s, where everything was about physical machinery and so forth, and we're in the digital world, and it's a completely different universe we're in right now.
Yeah.
So I think kind of there's no point in arguing whether change is too much or not too much. I think some of the comments on the survey that I want to relate to is so what do you do about this, and or why is it happening, and what do you do about this, and how do you manage that? So I would say few things. One is, yes, so for sure with, last year with the pandemic and all that, there was a very external change that accelerated many things. And yes. I don't think we see that very common once every 100 years. So that's this type of change, which we all went through. But I still think even without that, companies going through change, because once your competitor, as an example, out innovates you on the experience, you have to change, right? You got to react to that. So really need to understand, are you leading or are you following? Then there's the question. So you have to change anyway. So whether
like survival of the fittest approach.
Yeah, or whether you want to keep up ahead, or whether you want to beat your competitor, or whether you don't want to get outbeat by a competitor. in any case, you can't constant cannot happen. So that's one reality. Then the second question is, how do you manage that? And I think the folks on the survey that said it's too much, I think the change is it feels chaotic. So you got to organize it, right? So I think the way in which it needs to be managed, there needs to be like a long-term strategy and more of a, let's say, monthly and quarterly milestone you want to hit, around those strategy. And I feel that everyone that says it's too much, it's either they don't understand the strategy of the organization, or maybe there's no strategy for the organization. So I would highly recommend that there should be a strategy, a good one, but at least like where we want to get from here. And the ones that are saying it's not fast enough, so what's holding you back? Potentially, that could be a plug for Tango. You don't have the tools to do it. You move fast enough.
Tools and the ideas, right?
But in any case, I think I would highly encourage organizations to or individuals to accept, embrace change,
right?
And I think it's always easier. I mean, if we take the surfing metaphor, it's always easier to ride the wave versus going against the wave. So if there is a change, ride it. Don't go against it. It's just easier. It's more fun, and you will enjoy the ride. So yes, change is happening, and I think maybe we should we can turn the conversation. The question is, so what is the change that we're seeing right now, and how should we address it? I think this will help everyone to to try to figure out what do I want to do with that.
All right. Well, look, this is unplanned, but I would love to talk to you a little bit more about innovation, because it's a passion of mine. It always has been. My first company was developed in the Sussex Innovation Centre, which was an outreach part of the Sussex University in the UK, and I loved it there. I didn't succeed as a business. But I loved it there, and I loved the people there, and I loved the spirit of innovation itself, and the encouragement of ideas and trying. And I am a believer that anyone can innovate. There are tools and techniques you can learn to innovate. It's not like, oh, you're an artist or you're not an artist, or you can sing or you can't. No, you can learn these things, and you can learn to innovate. And as a company, you can learn to innovate. But my suggestion would be, at the moment, not all organizations are equal in either their ability to innovate or their willingness to innovate. And I think that both of those can be worked on. Maybe it's a culture as a start point, and in which case from the top. But any thoughts from you on how do you encourage innovation within an organization? How do you get to the point when you are riding that wave?
I'd start with I see innovation as a creative problem solving, right?
Okay. Yep.
Meaning that there could be like an innovation of sitting in the garage. I don't know where people sit right now, coffee shops and so forth, and think about yeah, exactly, new ideas and so forth. But I think for the most part, innovation comes from two things: is creative problem solving and constraints. And I think all organizations have both, right? I've got constraints. I never have enough resources, and I think the biggest constraint right now is time.
Yeah,
we don't have enough time to keep going at the rate in which we've been going. We got to accelerate the rate of change. So that forces instead of just incremental innovations, potentially kind of leapfrogging with technology, leapfrogging with, ideas, and so forth. I remember we talked to one, customer of ours, 7 Rooms, last year, was on a webinar, and the conversation was, we never thought about digital kind of customer success, but then COVID hit. I mean, we always said, okay, we know that you guys have this in your technology, but we are not doing this. We're not ready, and so forth. And then COVID hit, and then within, 2 weeks, the model switched from people-driven customer success to technology-driven customer success. Why? Because they had to do that. So I think a lot of organizations are going through that right now. They have to make much faster changes to meet the demands of the market. I mean, last year we were all like negative around this time, right? COVID just hit. Q2 of last year was like terrible.
I think it's an uncertainty thing there, right? We haven't had time to really assess. So because of risk increases where uncertainty is present, right?
I also think that there was no vaccine just yet, and I think the mindset was you're right, uncertainty, but there was a lot of uncertainty for so many relationships all at the same time. It was very, very scary for many organizations. And I think this year there's a huge opportunity that increases, right? Everyone
there's
is doing
deal with it mindset now. Yeah, definitely.
But a lot of businesses, right? I mean, I've talking to companies, there's a lot of companies that you see that are growing 50%, 100%, 200%, because all of a sudden markets that would have matured over a longer period of time have been matured very quickly, and now it's a market grab. So whether it was how do I slow down effectively last year, or how do I accelerate fast this year, and how do I move from slowing down to very fast moving, this is what a lot of organizations are dealing with. Or
indeed, how do I help my customer to accelerate? Yeah.
Exactly. In the same fashion, whether I have more customers or, but the dynamics is much. That's the constraint, kind of the speed in which we need to make changes. Now, the innovation is, okay, what solutions are we going to provide to this problem? And I think being curious and looking for alternatives and learning from others. And thank you, Rick, for actually running this show, because it allows other people to learn from others. What do other people do? And how can I kind of leapfrog, and instead of doing the incremental or only the incremental or the safe, not losing what I've got, take bigger bets potentially, or kind of, be a little bit braver, if you will. I don't know.
Yeah,
if it's a good terminology, or if it's a good advice. But I think at least being open-minded about additional ways in which you can do things, because others are doing them, or you can be the first, and so forth. I think that is driving innovation culture. And I must tell you that what I'm seeing across the board, from the largest organizations in the world, who you would expect to be extremely conservative
and slow to change because they're so big. Yeah,
but you would expect. I'm seeing different behaviors these days. I'm seeing much faster motivation. I think everyone adopts agility, because I think the probability to predict the future pre-pandemic has changed. People recognize that there's going to be all sorts of black swans that are going to happen.
But you're right. I agree with you. Big business was known for being cumbersome, being like the super tanker that takes a 3 miles to change direction sort of thing. And I think you're right. I think that has changed, and lessons have been learned about how to do that and how to innovate within a large organization. And they've learned. I would totally agree with you.